Hello, everybody. It's the Gin and Tonic show. And I've been talking for half an hour, but I had the microphone switched off, so I was talking to myself. It is the 24th of April, 2016. It is Sunday. It is 1800 UTC, and this is when the Gin and Tonic show comes on. Gin&Tonic show is a discussion platform where ideally Muslims come in and explain why it is that they believe what they believe, i.e. Islam, because I cannot understand it. Now, the way that it works is you can either listen, just go to godless.ch, or you can come in here and you can chat by writing hangout.godless.ch, or you can just go, if you've missed it, you go to archive.godless.ch and you can see past shows. Now, the way that we work here is we first do some definitions, because I like to first clarify what it is that we're talking about, then do a quick presentation of a video of the week, misconception of the week, news, sometimes even a fatwa of the week. And then we talk about some topic or other, and then we end by with the aid of Mr. Ali, who is going to recite the Hadith of the week today. So let's jump straight into the definitions. Oh, and I see the comment now. Yes, I was quiet because I forgot to switch on the microphone. What we do is, if I say, if I'm an atheist, there's a whole lot of baggage attached to this word atheist. And there's a whole lot of words which don't actually make much sense. So atheist is one of those. It doesn't really make sense. It's like saying, everybody knows what a dentist is. The dentist fixes teeth, all right? Whatever that may mean. Now, if you are a dentist, you know nothing about that person. So if I told you, next to me I've got an A dentist, you don't even know if it's a male or a female sitting next to me. You don't know what car they drive. You don't know what political party they vote or favor or whatever. You know nothing about them other than that they are an A dentist. In other words, they don't fix teeth. And yet, some people say, well, because they're a dentist, they must believe the universe had a beginning, or everything came out of nothing, or everything started by chance. Why? Why is it that if I say I am not a dentist, somebody would automatically assume that I am a great proponent, or that my life depends on the theory of evolution? Why do so many people think just because I'm an A dentist, I don't fix teeth, people say that I believe everything is by chance? It's not true. You know nothing about me if I am an A dentist. Now, funny enough, if I say I'm an atheist, people go crazy and they make all sorts of assumptions. And I don't understand it, because all I'm doing is I don't believe that gods exist. So it's a non-belief regarding gods, and that's it. There's nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. I don't give a continental damn about the theory of evolution. If somebody has anything better to suggest, if there is evidence for something better, I'll immediately abandon the theory of evolution. And no, the universe did not come around just by chance, and there was no beginning. We simply do not know. Okay, that is something that I propagate. I do not know, and I am proud of that, because I maintain that I do not know is a valid position to have. So, just as there is no a racist or a philatelist or things, I think there should be no atheist. And what is even worse, if somebody is not a dentist, if somebody is an A dentist, how can they be practicing adentism? I mean, that is not doing something. So I don't understand why people have this idea that just because somebody doesn't do something, that means they are very active at this. At least twice a week. I am busy as an dentist. I'm doing my dentism, oh my goodness, twice a week. And I think that's stupid. So I think people should understand what it is that they're talking about. And I think the most misleading word is atheist and atheism. But hang on, I'm not finished. I accept that I am an atheist and that I practice atheism, because theists are so insecure and so weak that they need this. They need to have these little labels to be able to talk to me. Otherwise, they can't talk to me. So they're so afraid of their position. It's so weak that they need to label me as such to be able to have some sort of a discussion with me, and I humor them. So if somebody wants to talk to me, and I think this discussion on Islam is very important that we have this, that we understand what we're talking about. So I even accept being the atheist and practicing atheism at least twice a week. And the other thing is agnostic. I even accept being the atheist and practicing atheism. And you, if you're not talking, mute the mic, because we're getting a lot of feedback. Jeremy, thank you. Cheers. Now, the other thing is that an agnostic does not know. The atheist does not believe, so I don't believe, but I'm also an agnostic because I don't know. The same way as I'm agnostic about dragons, elves, and all sorts of things where I don't know, where maybe in some remote corner of the universe there is something like that. But I think it's a useless term because nobody can actually know any about this. So this agnostic and agnosticism, I think we should do away with that. We could just sort of abandon it. It's a useless word.
Well, yeah, because when people describe themselves, I think people get confused what atheism means. You can be an atheist and say you don't know, but you can be atheistic towards a certain god. So you can be sort of an agnostic. It's kind of like most atheists are agnostic atheists, which means they're basically atheistic towards the Quranic description of God or Christian description of God. And
no, what I'm saying is an atheist is somebody who does not believe in any gods.
Say that again.
As an atheist, you don't believe in the existence of any gods.
Well, I mean, ultimately it comes down to what you define as God, doesn't it? I mean, if you define a God as something as intelligent, then I'm kind of agnostic to that. I mean, maybe we're in the Matrix. If you think about it, if you have one universe.
No. You see, this is exactly the point that I'm trying to make. There's two very, 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 very separate areas here. One is the atheist who does not believe gods exist, and then you have the agnostic who does not know. Now, I don't believe we're in the Matrix, but that has nothing to do with being an atheist.
Well, I know. What I'm saying is, like, it comes down to what your definition of God is, isn't it?
No.
Well, I think it does, because I don't know if there was like honestly, I think the simulation argument is a good argument. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I mean, suppose you have one universe like the one we're in now, and then because you have one universe with smart, intelligent creatures, then logically you can have a multiple of them making simulations. So suppose like this is an infinite universe, then you can have an infinite amount of infinite universes from the intelligent people that are spanned around making simulations. So it could be that, or it probably isn't because we haven't found much errors. But I mean, you can make logical arguments like this until you start saying stuff that are obviously contrary to reality.
Okay, what I'm saying is an atheist is somebody who does not see any reality, any manifestation in reality of any God.
Well, yeah, in reality, but I mean, the arguments like what was before the Big Bang. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about
the reality.
Well, yeah, technically, but I'm talking about yeah, kind of yeah, that is true. But I mean, just before God, there's some arguments, but obviously, I don't believe God can interact.
No, well, there are no gods that I see any evidence for.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, you could conceive of a God that just made the universe and doesn't do anything with
No, I
it or
can't.
interact or any way,
How
and you
would I
can't
be able to do that?
prove that wrong. It's like even Richard Dawkins said that some if you go with the definition of some as God as something intelligent, then he put it as something like 1 in 6 of the universe. But when you're talking about gods that interact, then that's what I'm saying. So
Okay,
I
let's
think
make that, maybe that work for Richard Dawkins.
the confusion with agnostic, I think, derives from that. Like people think that atheists literally claim they know that there was no intelligent thing before the Big Bang, but I think
But that's not a confusion of the term agnostic. That's a confusion of the people who think something. Because with the term agnostic or agnosticism, there is no confusion. I think it's useless. It doesn't do anything because nobody knows for sure whether gods exist or not.
yeah, I think basically what agnostic is a atheist that doesn't want to get into a theological argument. Let's be honest here.
Okay, that is your definition and your version of the word.
Yeah.
But in reality, if you look at what it actually is, where it comes from, you will see that it's the non-knowledge of something.
Like from my understanding, I thought that like agnostics are more of people that don't know and they don't care to get involved.
Okay, they don't know, don't care, because you can't know. Nobody can know. If you want to care, well, that's a different story. But the agnostic, as such, is somebody who doesn't know. Okay, it's the answer to two different questions. The first question is, do you know? And the other question is, do you believe? If you don't know, you're an agnostic. If you don't believe, you're an atheist. But it's only regarding gods, what we're doing here. There are many, many other areas where you can be an dentist and you can be agnostic towards a lot of things that you don't know. But atheist is only regarding gods. The agnostic can be towards a lot of things.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like it's sort of a useless term. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson is kind of saying, oh, "I'm agnostic. I'm not atheist." But in reality, he actually is an atheist.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to commit to the baggage of the atheist.
Right, right.
And this is why I'm saying the agnostic we should do away with, because it's useless. It doesn't hold any information that would be valuable for anybody, because nobody can know anything about a god. And what is it? Oiling said is absolutely 100% correct. Because since we can't know, we can't commit ourselves. And at the end of the day, it is something that everybody has to do with themselves. So if you are an agnostic towards something, it just means you don't know something, and that's easy. So if you want to define agnostic as don't want, don't care, and don't need, then that's fine. I'm just trying to establish a basis according to which I work, and I hate this word agnostic because I think it's a total cop out. It doesn't mean anything, and I am sick and tired of hearing you, the atheist, claim there is no God, which I simply do not do. I don't make any claims. And this is the difference, because there are some philosophers, or there's a guy, what's his Gary Edwards. He came out and he says, well, there's a lot more information in atheists because you are making a claim, because you're making a statement, and we should take a stand. And I'm saying, no, let's not do that. Let us not pass out free ammunition to get killed ourselves. I'm saying, let's be passive. I want to stand there and say, look, I'm not making a claim. The one who's making a claim has to provide the evidence. I cannot provide the evidence that there is no God, so I'm not saying there is no God. I'm saying there is no God as a person, okay? Let me not make no mistake here. As a person, I'm saying that, and I can argue the fact, but as an atheist, I can't. All right, so there's always two different things. The same thing with the dentist. You don't know what car the dentist drives or what that person is doing. You just know that they are not doing anything with teeth. This is the same thing with me as an atheist.
Well, you talk about some general God. I think on a certain level, you can just literally prove that models, as again, what I was talking about, a lot of the Christian and and the Islamic God, you can just literally, you could make an argument proving, well, by saying there is no space for this God to interact, therefore he can't actually answer your prayers and stuff like that. So
exactly, that's what I just said. As a person, I can do that, but not as the atheist, because the atheist is latched onto this non-belief of gods. So as an atheist, I will never do that. As a person, because there's several things that make up a person. I'm not only an atheist. I'm a lot of things. So as a person, as you quite rightly say, I can make the argument, but not as an atheist. And that is always the distinction that I'm trying to make, because I, as an atheist, don't make the claim that the universe came around by chance, or that life started by chance and things like that. I do not make that claim as an atheist. I can have a discussion as biologist or as chemist or as physicist or whatever, but not as an atheist. And that is always the distinction that I'm trying to make, and the problem that I have with people.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about Islam, and the other thing that is funny about Islam, because I initially, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I thought that Islam is just another religion. I thought it's like Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, or Zoroastrianism, Rastafarianism, whatever. And then one of the first things I had to learn when I looked into Islam was, nope, that's not true. Islam has a goal, and that is Sharia. And the Sharia, I think this is the most important question that anybody can ask. What is Sharia? And that is something that we're going to be talking about a little bit later in the program today, and I hope there's going to be some contributions here. So we're talking about Islam. We're talking about the way that Islam came about. If anybody has any questions, this would be brilliant, because we've got a lot of knowledge here in the panel. If anybody wants to make a comment, feel free to do so. If anybody wants to correct a mistake that we've made, excellent, because that's how you learn.
I love the question of what Sharia is, because we can talk about that for all eternity and never come to an answer.
We can talk about that from all eternity.
Depends on the person.
There's no one answer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is possible. This is possible, that everybody has their own personal view or standpoint or what stance or whatever. Yeah, sure.
The thing is, though, when you say that, when people want to enforce Sharia, they don't go on their own. They go on the fundamentalist leaders, don't they? So an individual could think, for instance, that, oh yeah, paedophilia should be banned, but then because he wants Sharia, then he elects like an imam, and then it enforces, you can have sex with 9-year-olds. So you can make the argument, but the people that would enforce it would obviously be religious leaders. So they would tend to the more fundamentalist version of it.
What we have in Islam is the so-called dualism, where, I hate this so much that I lost my entire text, because I did it. Oh, fuck. Anyway, this dualism is where there is no compulsion in religion, but you will burn if you don't. So this is a direct contradiction, but it's not a contradiction in Islam. It's a dualistic view where both are valid, where both are correct, depending on who you are, where you are, who you're talking to, and what situation you're in. And this is the funny story in Islam, that you can have people telling you Islam is a religion of peace, and we condemn terrorism, and you're not allowed to murder any innocent people, and blah, 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 and all these. But if you look at them, you will find they actually mean the opposite. And this is the dualism where, like, for example, here you are being told A, and then internally they are saying B. And both are valid for them, and they have not committed any lie or crime or anything by saying something different. It's both valid. It's just situation dependent. And this is the funny story that you have in Islam. And this is what I'm saying. In Islam, yes, you have a religion, yes, you have a God, but the actual goal is Sharia, the actual implementation of Islam as being the dominant religion, the dominant, I don't know, thought model, or the dominant way of life or something, is the goal of Islam. And that's the way it is seen. Everybody else has to commit to this. That is the goal of Islam. That's what makes it a political ideology. And this is something that I always stress, that people should go away from this, oh, Jesus, we love Jesus, and Moses, and Abraham, and Noah, and all that. No, that's not it. That's a con. It's very, very political. There's very, very straight expectations that people have. If you look at the Muslim Brotherhood, if you look at all these different organizations, they are very clear what they want to achieve, and by when. And this has nothing to do with Jesus or something. This is here on this planet on Earth. And this leads into the misconception. Oh no, sorry, the video of the week, because there was a Muslim-Jewish social experiment, and I loved it. I mean, I thought this was brilliant, and I wish there was more of this, because it had two people walking through New York. One very obviously Jewish, like Hasidic Jew, and one very obviously Muslim. And the reaction of people actually had me choked up, because we see that people are better than their gods. There were Christians that were saying it's so nice to see a Muslim and a Jew walking together side by side through New York. And people were taking selfies, and people were congratulating them. And this was brilliant. And that's why I said, yeah, this is the video of the week. This is where we should be. People should not worry about, you know, what people think and what they believe or something. They should just take the people, the human being as such, and not the stupid belief in gods, which poisons everything anyway. Okay, if you want to see it, it's going to be, I'm going to add this in the description box of the show later on. And this leads up to the misconception of the week, which is people say that...
On his one-way, on your one-way headphones again.
No, sorry,
the trouble with that is that it makes people think of religion as less bad than it is, because you think, oh, well, people are better than their God. But then the Christians and the Jews and obviously the Muslims turn around and say, well, this just shows how good our holy book is. It shows how moral it makes us. Well, no, it doesn't. You're doing it despite your religion. But they always put it into, oh, it's our religion that makes us such great people.
Shit, I'm an idealist. Damn it.
I don't know. I think the fact that it's such a big deal just kind of highlights the point, doesn't it?
But I think it can be. I think the thing is that a lot of people rely on this religion thing. Like, a lot of people rely on astrology. They rely on the daily horoscope and things like that. So I think a lot of people want this God feeling, this Superman in their life. And I think two people walking through New York is actually showing what it can be. This is the idealist in me, and Jeremy is the realist, because you're right, and I hate you for it, because it's true that it's sort of making it all cute and that, but it shows that you can get along. Damn it. Damn it. Okay, this leads to the misconception
on this Superman they want in their life, because it's like, if that Superman doesn't exist, it's really unhelpful to have a belief that he does.
Yeah, but a lot of people celebrate. I mean, look at Comic-Con. Look at people going crazy, celebrating Hercules and Star Trek and things like that.
Except in their imaginations.
No. They actually go and wear the costumes.
Yeah, but they don't think he exists except in their imaginations.
Well, a lot of people go and think that being like Spock is brilliant, fascinating. Anyway, I don't think that people believe that Superman exists, but now if you believe that Superman exists and you say, I wish he would exist, and then if anybody is bad, then they will be caught by Superman. Okay, big deal. What does it do? Nothing. If I once a year put on a Superman costume and I go around and I say this is in reverence to my hero or whatever.
But there's no book that's written by, was it Marvel that invented Superman?
I don't even know.
Marvel, I guess, that dictates what Superman wants you to do. If there were, people who thought Superman existed would be doing whatever that book told them to.
Exactly. Except Marvel doesn't tell the people, they only tell Superman.
Well, exactly. But that's the difference, isn't it, between that and religion?
It is. No, it is. I mean, the analogy breaks down very quickly. But I'm saying it's also something that is not real. And I think Father Christmas, Santa, God, and Superman are the same thing. It's just that people have taken this God idea, this concept, a bit further and said, well, now not only am I telling Superman what to do, but I'm telling you what to do to not get into conflict with Superman.
Yeah, they really are that kind of specific, aren't they?
And this leads me to the misconception of the week, because just like you have Batman and you have Superman and you have Spider-Man and you have all these guys saying that the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims have the same Abrahamic God, I think is bullshit. Because if I look at the way that Jesus, the character of Jesus, the Jews don't have him, the Christians depend on him, and the Muslims just say, well, he was another prophet. I think it's very different. And the God in Judaism doesn't have heaven or hell, doesn't need this. In Christianity and in Islam, the God needs it. And then there's so many differences. Like the Islamic God doesn't have a son. So this whole idea is very, very, very different. And so I don't see this God being the same thing.
I like the Islamic apologists who say that Christians and Jews are basically worshipping the same God, so they're people of the book. So I suppose Christians and Jews in Muhammad's day wouldn't have had anything to fear from Muhammad, because he would have just accepted them into the flock.
Well, that's what he wanted, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't what happened, was it?
No. Initially, I think the whole Islam idea was just Judaism 2.0, and until they realized, no, it's not going to work, and then they went and diverged.
Well, surely if he wanted to use religion to push his own political aims, it was always going to have to be totally different from square one, really. Because you'd be adding bits onto Judaism.
Yeah, I think Christians and Jews admitting that they worship the same God is inherently defeatist, because there's nothing in the texts of Judaism that say there's going to be a prophet come and his name is Jesus, and nothing about Muhammad. It's inherently based in Islam that says that they worship the same God. So
not the same God, but the Jews at the time rejected him and rejected Islam.
Well, yeah. So, but the in Islam there's I believe that three books were sent from God. The Talmud, no, I can't remember, the Torah or the Talmud, but whatever, and then the Bible, and then the Qur'an. But then the Qur'an's the last one. So what I'm saying is that Christians and Jews admitting that they worship the same God is a defeatist for them, because it's an inherently Islamic belief that they worship the same God. When in actual fact, if you've just gone off the descriptions of God in the Bible, then it's an inherently different God. But the Muslims can say that with consistency, because they believe that it came from the same God, but was some sort of sequel, because some reason, like, a God messes up and he's like, oh, I didn't get this quite right, I'm going to send down another word of God. And
what about Intra X and Al-Asa? Do you, when you were still Muslims, did you believe that this was the same God?
Well, yeah, I believe that as a Muslim, I believe that yeah, it was like the same God, and the Christians, they kind of took Jesus as a God, and the Jews, they worship their rabbis, because that's what the Quran tells us, that they took their rabbis and Christian monks as their lords. It directly says that in the Quran. So we believe that, you know, the Christians kind of changed up their scripture. That's what we're told, and the Jews changed up their scripture. So yeah, I sincerely believed that the Christians and the Jews had to reform, but at the same time, I didn't have any biblical knowledge. I didn't have any knowledge on Judaism. So that's what I truly believed.
but you're meant to believe that the Bible and the Talmud, the originals, did come from God, wasn't it?
We believed, yeah, they had the Christians had the Gospels and the Jews had their scripture, but the original was tampered with. That's what we're told. It was tampered. So the Bible We believe in some things in the Bible as long as it conforms with Islam, and the same thing with Jewish tradition. So that's why so many Muslims try to find similarities and try to say, hey, we worship the same God. And that's why they're trying to invent something called Chrislam now. It's a combination of Christianity and Islam, which is ridiculous.
But when it comes to the Quran, every word of it's perfect, and no one can ever release anything to change it. Just trust us on that one.
Well, what was that?
Because when it comes to the Quran, every word of it's perfect, and no one can ever release any further modifications. So just trust us on that one.
Yeah, exactly. That's the attitude. Yeah, just trust us. Pretty much. And if you don't, that means you are being arrogant.
And ex-Muslim, what did you also believe this?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, yeah, I did. And basically they say the same thing as me, so I will add on to the point that I even thought that the Hindus one, I accepted that they probably worship the same God at the beginning. In the beginning, obviously, not now.
So, okay, so there's only one God, but different people have different flavors.
Yeah.
Well, no,
But in the
they
beginning,
believe
that's how yeah.
wasn't it all that they believe that they were originally inspired, but then they got corrupted or something like
See,
that,
that's the funny thing.
which is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Which is ridiculous when you think about it, because if God is all wise or omnipotent, then He would know His scripture would be corrupted, and as a result, millions, billions will burn in hell right now. If you think about it, so if you bring up Hinduism and you say he was one of the messengers, which is supposed to be in like 10,000 or whatever, that originally said it, but then they corrupted it, then you're admitting that God either didn't know that His message would be corrupted, or you're admitting that He knowingly and willingly set billions of people into hellfire. And either way, you've either got a God that's pretty much a dick, or you've got a God that's not all wise.
yeah.
Well, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, the thing about that argument, the way that the Muslims slip through that is they pretty much say that, the gap in between revelation between Christianity and Islam, they say those who stuck to the original gospel. Like, so they say, there's even a verse in the Quran that says the Christians and Sabians and whatever will be admitted into paradise without questioning because they followed their original scripture. But who knows who followed what original scripture or whatever, the details of this, we don't know. Just like the Quran, how it's so vague, how it confirms the past prophets, it's very vague, right? So
I'm
the
just
Muslims
reading
use this
exactly
excuse.
that part. That's exactly the part in chapter 2 that I'm reading at the moment in my series, An Atheist Reads the Quran, which hopefully I'll have ready, I don't know, either today or tomorrow. It's quite sad what they're saying there, because it's exactly what you're saying, vague and ambiguous, and nobody really knows what it's saying.
Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, the Christians that's why Muslims always have a problem. That's why they always quote the Bible and all that kind of stuff and say it's violent, because they're trying to show Christians, oh, your own scriptures are tampered with. I'm sure you guys encountered that a lot on the internet. When
Yeah,
you
of
bring up
course.
something
Yeah.
to Muslims, they'll always quote the Bible, saying, look what you invented. That's where the mentality comes from.
X, you wanted to say something?
Oh, what I was saying is that most Muslims don't know about how it's created.
Okay.
The Christian text, yeah. Because if you ask them, they say it's from Jesus, right?
That's what they say, yeah, that it was
Yeah.
also sent down, it was given to Jesus, and he was supposed to propagate it, and they made a mess.
But yeah, he never even talked about it. Or he never even talked
It's
to
true,
him.
actually, yeah.
Yeah, like he actually doesn't, yeah, he's not even written it. And the funny thing I have to add is in the book of Mark, I think is, or Matthew, he never mentions his virgin birth or something like that. That's the thing I asked one of the Muslims, but they use the same arguments as some other Christians. They said, oh, it's not a book that's meant to talk about that bit. Yeah, so
Convenient.
I know. It talks about everything else, but that's the only thing it misses. I mean, it just shows how the story developed, right? It was the first book in the Bible.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I think he was just some guy who got developed. His character got developed.
Oh, you mean in the real world? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
how
but then
serious
you
that.
have the same thing with Muhammad. I mean, there's no difference. The same thing with Moses. So I see the similarities between Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad all the way through.
Yeah. I mean,
But
even
a
in
Muslim
the
will not.
There's
That's
two
not-
two
sorry.
hadith that there's two hadiths that stand out that give you this confirmation bias that Islam is the true religion. It's like there's one hadith where Omar ibn al-Khattab was reading the Torah in front of Muhammad, and basically Muhammad said to him, he became very angry and said, if Moses were alive today, he would be following me. And there's also another hadith in which Muhammad came to a bunch of Jews and he asked them what the punishment for adultery was, and the Jews pretty much said it's taking coals and blackening their faces. That's what the punishment is. And I think Muhammad had a companion with him, and he was allegedly reading the original Torah, and basically the Torah said to stone someone for adultery. So that's a very strong hadith. So it gives the Muslims like this confirmation bias that Islam really came as the last religion, and the Christians and Jews are just bullshitting.
Alassa, did I have you were a Muslim once, weren't you? Oh, he's not talking to us today. What a pity. Okay, so then there are different options, different versions, different understandings, different interpretations, different flavors, different versions on all of this. I found a couple of things which I wanted to talk about. One of them is actually Scientology. Now, Scientology in Russia had the offices raided in several cities, and this is on a technicality. And they found that smoke detectors and security, you know, these infrared detectors with the milky white screen from, they were in fact secret cameras and microphones. And the recordings were stored on hard drives, which were in a compartment with a pulse gun, sending out a strong electromagnetic pulse to erase everything in case of emergency, and it failed. So the Russian police were able to retrieve the data. And this is illegal for any company to have personal data. Now, why am I telling you this? Because, and this is quite strange, it's uncanny actually, the members were unaware of this. And they were still defending Scientology, thinking it's a beneficial, a benign religion. And in reality, any sane person knows it's just a pernicious cult, a pyramid system. And then
Or a
Muslims are
business.
mostly,
Yeah.
sorry?
A business, I would say.
Well, business. I think it's a pyramid scheme where the top people get the most money and the one at the bottom have to work.
Yeah, all right.
And then I think that Muslims are mostly the same way. That they are unaware, blissfully unaware, of the nature of Islam. They only see a tiny portion or get just a glimpse of what they're supposed to see and are trained for, just like Scientologists are trained to defend their belief system, come hell or high water. And I think Muslims have a very similar attitude in this, that they contribute to the Ummah, thinking that they are doing something for the benefit of everybody, when in reality there is no Ummah. Because it's all divided into different groups and sects, and it's crazy. And yet Muslims believe this and will still defend this, and they will still come out and say, well, Muhammad is a role model. Yeah, but hang on, he told people to rape. Yeah, okay, then it was okay. Aha, but he's a role model for today. Yes. They get their knickers in a twist because they don't understand what Muhammad did, and they want him to be a role model for today, which he can't possibly be. So it's a confusion there. Any opinions on this? Whoops, that was my tea.
This relates to confirmation bias, right?
I don't know if I would call this confirmation bias. I'd call this blind following. I'd call this
Oh, I'm saying
denial.
it would be inside this, a part of this.
Yeah, because they're a part of this, because they believe that everything they hear is true. whereas in reality it is not. In reality, Muslims are divided. Muslims are different
Oh yeah, yeah.
sects and groups, and Muhammad cannot be a role model today.
You see, the funny thing is, in the Quran it says to not create sects, but it happened.
Yeah, but why? I mean, Ike made a very good point today in the morning, where he said if Muhammad had been the good guy that the Muslims are making him out to be, he would have stopped slavery and raping completely,
Oh
immediately.
yeah, yeah.
He didn't, so he wasn't even a role model then. So, which is also true.
Yeah, they said he did this so it's easier for the Muslims, but then it doesn't make sense when he banned alcohol straight away, right? Like all of a sudden.
No, it's the other way around. Alcohol is phased in, but pork is prohibited immediately, and adultery.
All right.
Well, actually, alcohol is not prohibited in the Quran at all.
Well, compared to slavery and everything, but slavery doesn't get banned.
Yeah, but you get the claim. This for me is always so funny when people say, "Well, slavery was banned in Islam." I say, "Well, where is it banned?" Well, they have like a contract, and they get food and they get clothes, and it's like a working contract. And I said, "Can they leave if they want?" Well, maybe not immediately. So I said, "Well, then it's slavery." No, it's not. It's quite strange. Okay, very funny one then. Technology review online. Does anybody know technology review? Okay, what will we do when confronted with a new biological technology which allows doctors to grow something like a finger from donor cells? And theoretically, humans today can replace any human organ and implant or transplant it to save an ill person. The problem is these organs are grown on pigs because they are so similar to humans. Now, the question is, will a Muslim rather die than have his liver be replaced by a liver grown from his own cells, but using a pig? Now, at the moment, the US National Institute of Health, the NIH, they have halted this, okay, to evaluate the ethics and social implications, because after all, a pig growing human organs is now a new species. So there are some technicalities which need to. But what do you think? Will a Muslim accept living if his new finger organ or something was made from on a pig?
I'll be honest and try to put my answer first, but and say, yeah, there will be like probably a lot of dogmatic Muslims that have a big problem with this, but according to a lot of Muslims, they study something called usul al-fiqh. It's basically the foundations of principles in Islam, and they try to balance it out. Like, so they have this principle, like if you're in extreme hunger, you're allowed to eat a pig or whatever. So they will use that same principle and say, well, if it's in order to save a life, they probably would use a pig's heart or whatever and do whatever it takes.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, which type of Muslims are we talking about?
I would say the
General or
like I would say according to like surprisingly the Salafist interpretation, they would go with that and say, yeah, there's a principle, because like they look at the benefit and the harm.
Oh
But
yeah.
I would say like the uneducated Muslim, the one that doesn't know anything about his religion, will probably just say, no, pigs are haram or whatever. So it depends on the literacy rate, I think, in the country and what they follow and that type of thing. But I will say that there is a possibility that they would accept that.
Yeah, I could see that. But then there would be some that reject it.
Can I
There
tell
will be
you a
like
story? I accidentally let a Muslim eat a bacon somewhere, but I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. I didn't know what bacon meant.
Everybody just got quiet all of a sudden. Does anybody else got any interpretations or whatever?
I
What
don't
was the
know.
question?
Like, would Muslims use pigs as organs? Since there's a lot of research coming up that the pigs' body parts could be used to save
Oh
lives.
no, they're grown on the pigs, I think, or they're
Yeah.
grown with the pigs. Yeah, like the human
Oh, yeah,
DNA.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah, that's alright. So it's not that different. I mean, you could argue that's your DNA, or it's just DNA. I don't know. It's different DNA. It wouldn't be count. Actually, no, it's pig still. Yeah.
Doesn't the Quran say that the flesh of swine is forbidden, correct?
Oh yeah, you could
Yeah.
use that.
Yeah.
Because like there are hadiths that say like when Muhammad was on a journey or something like that, and there was no water around. There's a principle where he used dirt where a pig died, and
Oh,
he like used that dirt so they could use that excuse to justify the religion.
just
you know?
imagine, just imagine the debates they'll be having. I'll actually enjoy it. You
Yeah,
know,
I'm
the
sure
new
there'll
one,
be
Ali,
debates on that.
Ali, yeah, Hamza, tortoise. All right, so
Yeah, I mean that's pretty crazy. Like, it just should, it just goes to show you that it's not just a religion. That's just a totalitarian way of thinking. Honestly, because it affects every single part of your life, from the
That's
bottom up. You know.
that's what I try to get Christians to understand too, because I see a lot of Christians, they have a good intention to like speak down on Islam and everything, but they think everything is just like flatlined in Islam, and it's not like that. Like in Christianity, like Islam, you have circumstantial things that change, and that's what makes Islam not clear. Like we were talking about earlier about Sharia, I would argue Ibn Taymiyyah was like one of the first ones to ground this Sharia principle. But then you have the Sufis that disagree with Ibn Taymiyyah, and you have this big mess. So I blame the Sufis for bringing this whole different definition of Sharia.
Well, I mean, Ghazali was a Sufi, so I mean, he didn't really have much objections. I mean, he still believed in jihad. He still believed in all that stuff.
Right. There's this like certain Sufi sect, like the Naqshbandi Sufis. They say the Imam of the Sharia was Ibn Taymiyyah, but Ibn Arabi was the truth that we must go to. So like there are Sufis that do support Sharia law, and there are Sufis that are just like no Sharia law, and they think Sharia law is in your heart or something like that, and they say
So
it's
yeah,
not applicable.
I mean, with
It,
the Sufis, I think it comes down to two groups. You have one group that's involved in politics, and one group that rejects it and basically, believes in retreating, like from the world. So there's, to me, I divide them up into two different types. So the ones that believe in retreating from the world don't really believe in that stuff. But the ones that believe that you should be active in the world and active in politics, then obviously they're the ones that believe that. So it's kind of a double-edged sword with that. But even then, they're just a marginal group. They're not the mainstream. So
I was just talking to the Sufi recently, and it was so frustrating because like she's like a reporter for a news station and stuff like that, and we were asking her about her beliefs, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm a Sufi Muslim," and she's like, I don't believe in Sharia and all this kind of stuff." And when I got down to her beliefs, she's like, "Oh, I even believe hellfire is metaphorical. Like I don't believe in a literal hellfire." It's like that's like against 99% of the Muslims out there.
how did she justify this?
Like there's a certain I think she got these beliefs from like the Ismaili sect of Islam, because like they believe that hellfire is metaphorical too, or something weird like that. It's
Oh, okay.
so they make it so confusing. That's the problem. And you got people like this that appear as normal people, and they have influence, and they're just like, "Oh, I defend Muslims. I'm a Muslim myself." And it's like, no, you're not defending what we're trying to speak out against.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with being a Muslim anymore. If you take out hellfire, if you take out everything, I think hellfire is the one driver of Islam.
Oh yeah, it's like the motivation. Without it, you're not really gonna do anything.
Yeah. If apostasy and hellfire go out the window, Islam dies.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No, it's not only the hellfire, it's the carrot and the stick. You got the hellfire along with the 72 Uris.
And that, yeah. DJ, what are you saying here? Saudi family therapist explains wife beating. Some wives want to live a life of equality. This is a very grave problem.
Yeah, and then keep reading. You read the last paragraph.
No. I'm looking at your heading. I didn't want to open this now. I just thought you were going to quickly give us a synopsis.
Yeah, basically he's just saying that this therapist, he said that wife beating, it should be intended as a means of discipline rather than to vent one's anger, and should be carried out with a rod or a not with a rod or sharp object, but with a tooth cleaning twig or a handkerchief.
Okay.
And this is his quote. In the video, he says, unfortunately, some wives want to live a life of equality with their husband. This is a very grave problem.
Very grave problem. This is a new area of Sharia again. Now, let's talk a bit more about Sharia, because what I want to talk about actually is the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Countries, or Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Because
shouldn't it be coercion?
Yeah. I knew they existed, but I never paid much attention to them. And now I looked at some of their manifests, at some of their conferences, and some of the things that they do, and I think this is what worries me a little bit, because what they are is, I mean, we have the United Nations, and there's like, I don't know, 200 countries or something in the United Nations. Then you have the next largest group, which is this OIC, where most of these countries are in the United Nations, and they will go and vote in the United Nations for something, and then they will go into their own little group, the OIC, and vote against it. So the OIC are a group of countries which call themselves Islamic, and there's 56 of them, or 57, depending on whether you want to add Palestine into that or not. So there's 57 countries, or 56, and they are saying that they are cooperating within themselves, and they, for example, send their foreign ministers. So from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the minister of that department goes into a conference. So you have 56 ministers sitting there discussing Islamic topics, not Muhammad or God. No. We're talking really worldly things. And they are, for example, discussing Sharia. They are discussing what kind of demands to make. They are discussing what to complain about. So they will go to the United Nations and they will tell the United Nations, listen, there's something called Islamophobia and we want you to stop it. So in other words, you, the United Nations, have to implement our wishes, which are based on Sharia, which are based on the Islamic law, as though you believe that this God exists. So you're not allowed to in any way criticize Islam or Muhammad. Now, if you don't criticize Muhammad, it means that you accept that he was somebody special, that you accept that there was a God, and this God gave the Qur'an to Muhammad and who made him the prophet and the one and only and the last one, and you accept all of that. And this is what the OIC is now demanding. So the rest of the world is now dancing to the tune of the OIC. Now, the worst thing that they're doing is they're making demands, and they're saying, we need you to do this, we need you to do this, we need you to do this. Now, as Saudi Arabia is losing influence because it's losing money, this is going to get a bit less, I suppose, I hope, I think. But what they're doing is they're providing definitions. So, peace, for example, say Islam is a religion of peace. They're not telling them it's a common submission to their God. They're talking about Islamophobia, where they're saying it's criticizing Islam, but in actual fact it means their God, Muslim or Muhammad or something. They talk about human rights, but don't talk about human rights according to what? According to Sharia, because in Sharia you cannot have any law that is against the Quran. So in Sharia you cannot have that a woman will inherit the same amount, that a woman has the same voice in a court of law over financial matters, that a woman has the same status as her husband. It doesn't work. A woman is not allowed to have 4 husbands. A man can have 4 wives, but not the other way around. So this is Sharia. It is always Quran compliant. And they say, we condemn terrorism. But they don't tell them that the definition of terrorism is killing a Muslim. So this is atrocious. This is why I would like to talk about this. Who knows anything about this, and what kind of level of influence are we talking about here? Does anybody know them?
OIC would be nothing without OIL.
Yeah, that too. But there's, I mean, they have countries there like Mozambique, where like 10% of the people are Muslims, and yet they are part of the OIC. Funny, for some odd reason. Nigeria, not even half the people are Muslims, and yet they are one of the big members in the OIC. You have people like the Gambia, which is like a whole terrorist state, and yet it's calling itself the Islamic Republic of the Gambia. They are also in the OIC, so I don't really know what the criteria is for being accepted into this club.
Well, didn't Saudi Arabia lecture Sweden on human rights? He's like, oh, you need to treat Muslims better. I just found that hilarious.
Exactly, it is. But this is, again, this is the OIC, and this is the definition that they use internally, where I'm not really sure. I can't find out whether this is now driven, or I have not compared the manifest of the OIC and the Muslim Brotherhood to see if they're identical or if one is driving the other.
Yeah, it's scary because wasn't Saudi Arabia trying to make something like some sort of Islamic NATO as well? To get all the a lot of Muslim states together to form some sort of NATO-like.
So nobody knows the OIC, and nobody knows what they do and what they should do, and whether such a group is.
No, it's basically the influence of oil money. For example, the Saudis have a heavy influence on Maldives. So Maldives is basically a tourist paradise. But they have, over the past 10 years or so, they've become more and more Islamic, and that's because of the Saudi funds a lot of activities, not just mosques, but in general economic development. And that's what I feel. Countries like Saudi, Qatar, they fund these poorer African states, and they tell you support our agenda, we will fund you. It's just basically that. I don't think it's a lot to do with enforcing Islam. It's just that the main countries have this Islamic agenda, and the little guys just follow them.
What you reminded me of was this incident with Sarah Saleh. Like, she's an Australian Arab human rights activist, quote unquote human rights activist, and she was like on this TV show with Majid Nawaz, and Majid Nawaz pretty much asked her on camera, "Do you support secularism?" And she could not answer the question. And so you just reminded me that like so many Twitter followers gave her stuff for that. Like, do you support secularism and not a theocracy, not an Islamic theocracy and Sharia law? And she just keeps blocking people on Twitter because of that. And I think that's the question that you can corner them in. Any of these Muslim human rights activists or whatever, if they're in disguise, just ask them, do you support secularism? And they won't give you a straight answer.
But should they?
I think they should, yeah, because if they're Muslim and they're promoting like human rights and everything, we got to get a definition of what they're promoting. If they're in support of Sharia law, if they count that as human rights and everything like that, I think we should have a clear answer.
Terrorism is just a separation of state and religion. So if you have a view on human rights, does that automatically spill over into secularism?
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Well, the human rights, as defined by the Human Rights Index, part of it is religious freedom, and Sharia is inherently anti-religious freedom. Sharia is inherently pro-child bride. So yeah, it is inherently anti-human rights, and I think it's an oxymoron title, to be honest.
Yeah, you can include Merriam Francois Serra also. Like whenever these people speak, it's very ambiguous. They you don't know which side they're supporting. She will speak for human rights, and then she will say burqa is a choice, and they're very ambiguous. You cannot understand clear cut. And the beauty of speakers like Ayan Asi Ali and uh, probably Robert Spenters, they are very clear cut. They provide evidence, they provide logic. So it's very you know, if you're objective, you know whom to support, and who's a fox and who's a lion, I guess.
You're basically asking, given that you're fully signed up to a religion that supports the merger of religion and state, do you support the separation of religion and state?
Yeah, like there was this one guy named Hamza Yusuf, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. He's like an American scholar in Islam, and he makes it clear in an interview I saw him on YouTube. He was saying, in my religion, I believe homosexuality is wrong, but I will obey the secular law and agree that it should be allowed in this country. So I think when Muslims answer the question like that, I think it makes it clear.
It doesn't make sense though, because he's going against his own religion, isn't he?
What was that?
Isn't he going against his own religion if he says?
But he makes that distinction. He makes a distinction and says, if I'm living in the law of the land, I support the secular law, which I like.
As far as I'm aware, Islam doesn't allow for that.
I mean, he can do whatever he wants, so whatever interpretation helps him sleep at night. But I appreciate his version better than someone.
Some of them do say they're against the act, not the person, so they can use that.
But that's where I'm going back with this whole secular law thing, though, too. It's like I want them to say it, secularism.
Now I get it. I'm sorry, I'm a bit slow. So what you're saying is there is no direct connection. But if you do go for secularism, you cannot have definitions like homosexuality needs to be stoned or banned or something like this. I understand it now. So if you say, yes, in my religion, stoning is an option, but because I'm not living in Sharia countries or something, then it should be out.
Right, yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like, I want them to confirm that that they believe in a complete separation of church and state. They're going to be human rights activists without their Islamic influence or whatever.
It's also not buying into it's not integrating at all. It's a flat-out statement that I'm not integrating, but I guess I'll put up with your crappy law. Well, that's not that. I'd have an immigration policy that would ban such people.
Okay, but then how do you see Saudi Arabia applying for the United Nations seat in human rights?
But we were talking about, well, the example was given was a woman in Australia, wasn't it?
Yeah, okay, but I think it's similar.
When it comes to somebody who's immigrated into a Western country, they should be expected to integrate into fundamental aspects of Western culture. Not sort of say, I'm going to set up a ghetto where I don't agree with your law, but I guess I'll put up with it until we get large enough numbers to overhaul your law the way we want it.
But did she immigrate?
Well, she's Muslim. Either she or her parents or grandparents did.
Yeah, but maybe she converted.
Yeah, she's like a proud Australian Arab or something like that. But I see what Jeremy's trying to say. He's saying, like, oh, yeah, wait till we get the numbers and then we'll overthrow it.
Yeah.
But, I'm like, for those types of people that don't make it ambiguous or don't make it clear and are ambiguous about that, like, there was another case in Australia where these Muslims said, oh, we believe in democracy, but we believe that democracy allows us to vote for Sharia. So those type of people I don't care about. I think they're stupid. I think they don't understand what democracy is in the first place. But I'm talking about people that say, hey, I'm living in this land and I'm comfortable with it. So they support secularism, church and state, separation of church and state.
But aren't they still implicitly saying that they don't agree with the human rights law?
How so?
Because it sounds like they're saying that I'm comfortable living with the law, but I don't really agree with it.
I mean, to me at least, they're abiding by the law.
I just think, looking at some areas in the UK is the place I can speak for because it's where I live. If you allow large ghettos of people who don't really buy into your society to build up, it's a disaster. I mean, there are several areas in the UK now that are just you wouldn't want to live there if you're not a Muslim.
I see what you're saying. Like even in like some places in Pakistan, like they promote this secular law, but they still push for Islam. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, and in their private communities, they enforce it anyway. The police don't really enforce the law. They don't enter into the area. I mean, like there was a story, just one random story. There was a guy who converted from Islam to Christianity, and he was living in a part of Bradford, and he was getting his car windows smashed in. He had to move out.
It's like, I think it's like Dearborn.
Sorry?
I think it's like Dearborn in Chicago.
Dearborn, Michigan.
Dearborn?
Yeah, it's a city in Michigan.
What about it?
He was just saying, like, he thinks it's like that, like where the Muslim population like overruns the place and the police have no control.
Yeah, so sort of severe ghettoization. I mean, it's what multiculturalism leads to, but it really takes on its worst form when you've got a culture that's very invasive and doesn't want to adapt, doesn't want to get on with everyone else, which is obviously Islam. It's by far the worst in that respect.
I think multiculturalism works if one culture, in its inheritability, doesn't want to enforce its own culture. Well, I didn't word that properly. If it doesn't want to promote its own culture.
We just had the authorities in Bristol, just as an aside, saying that they weren't willing to have any official celebration for St George's Day because they speak about 81 languages in Bristol, and so they're so multicultural they can't celebrate St George's Day in England. That's what multicultural.
Oh yeah, that's just bullshit.
Yeah, I think there should be like especially in Europe, there should be some sort of law or something where they have to assimilate to like European culture. Like there has to be some tenets or something that they agree upon to assimilate into the original culture. I think
they don't.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the multiculturalism goes too far.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, you have Sikhs, you have all sorts of people that go into another country and they integrate. And they learn the language and they manage to live there and they become part of the society and there's absolutely no problem. Why is it that there are so many Muslims who are unable to do that?
Because they believe they're the best.
It's the religion, and if you have a large segment of your society who does not see the value in freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and other values that the other people cherish, you are going to have those people impoverished. They are not going to do economically well, and they will drag the whole society down with them.
And it's just going to get worse before it's going to get better. So as these populations increase, it's going to be more and more demands, more and more concessions, and then
how can it get worse?
Population numbers. It's going to increase the demand for more concessions.
Yeah.
It's going to lead to civil war, and then civil war will lead to either extermination or balkanization. So.
Well, my opinion is that the only reason, not opinion. I mean, just a point here that I think they've started allowing Muslim schools. I think that's really going to be detrimental to everything. I just remember Christopher Hitchens on this is like, I will not let this country be like Lebanon. I will not let this country be like Northern Ireland. And I'm really thinking that now.
Yeah, but then you have people like the OIC who are condemning Switzerland, for example, for banning further minarets. They're saying the minarets that we have now are fine. We don't want to look like Istanbul, and that is why we want to keep our Swiss culture. And we, the people, and there it's a real democracy, the people voted for not building any more minarets. And the OIC, they went apeshit. And they said this is a discrimination, this is Islamophobic, this is all sorts of things, accusing Switzerland of a violation of all the human rights and things that you can imagine. It's like almost terrorism.
It's so ridiculous as well, because it gets in the way of people. It's like it just wakes you up in the morning and stuff like this. So annoying. Like, wish they did it in this country.
That to me is a very clear middle finger to the host society. We're not going to integrate. Not only are we not going to integrate, we're going to inflict on you our religion. We're going to make sure you can't manage to avoid it. You know, we're gonna put it on megaphones into the local streets.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but then how do we handle an organization which is obviously as big, as huge, as powerful, as influential as the OIC?
Time. Wait until the oil runs out.
Well, I don't think OIC has any weight whatsoever. I think you're confusing with the Islamic cooperation countries. None of these has much influence anyway. They just talk, but nobody really listens to them. But on the other hand, there's a big hypocrisy on some of the Western countries too. You mentioned no minaret in Switzerland. That's unfair. I mean, if you're going to allow people who hold this type of ideology, you got to let them part of the system, at least where it's legal for them to do so. I mean, if anybody is allowed to open up a church, do whatever they need to do, they should be allowed to do it as well. And also, I just want to remind a while back, in late 70s and early 80s, these hate preachers, when they were preaching hate in United Kingdom, like the guy with the hook, he was preaching violence in Egypt, and these guys were wanted. And the position that the British government held is, these guys are entitled to freedom of speech. And when these guys start to preach hate against Britain, they were very quick to act and send them out, deport them, and kick them out of the country when it comes to them. But
I thought it took 3 years.
Yeah, in 3 years they threw them out. But
yeah, I thought you said very quick.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, the 3 years. 3 years is relatively quickly, but when the other country was asking for their extradition, they were holding the position, no, these people have the right to freedom of speech, and we don't want them going into a country where all this kind of nonsense. When it comes to them, the laws were changed.
Well, the thing is, I think it's different, because if they open something like a Christian minaret, then there'd be calls to prayers, and then there'll be complaints, and then they'd just get rid of them straight away. I think it's only because it's another religion that they're so like, oh, we can't do this, otherwise it's Islamophobic.
The calls to prayer over the speakers are coming, and it's already started in Sweden and some of the other countries. They do it on loudspeakers now. Yeah. In Sweden, there's a mosque that's allowed to do it on Friday. It's only on Friday right now, but it will just get more and more.
Oh, I thought that was a big no-no, that we're never going to allow that.
But like going back to the original point about why are Muslims doing this above any other religion, it's like they try to voice out their grievances. I think it's a lot of anger with the whole Israel and Palestine issue. They think that England and America is against them. They just have this certain attitude that they have to dominate an area. And it's from their text. So that's what makes them so different.
Yeah, this is going back to the OIC as well, because this is the strongest thing that they have. Palestine, Palestine, Palestine. That's all they're talking about, forever Palestine. Where is this Palestine such a huge problem that the whole world has to be talking about it? I mean, we're talking about a tiny areas like the Black Forest. Should we now go and instigate a passport for the Black Forest people and make it a separate region with its own borders, national anthem, and flag? Come on, it's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it is. It is. And I can understand, like Kyle, what secular talk. He says it's not based on religion, but it really is. I mean, the reason why it's so hyped up is because of religion. Because if it was any other religion involved, if it was Muslims on Muslim, it wouldn't be on the news. Like what's happening in Balochistan right now.
Yeah, and also,
you don't know about it. More people have died because of that than Palestine. I think the reason why they care so much because it's an important center for Islam. They've got that. I can't remember what that mosque's called, and it involves Jews.
yeah, it's also the region, isn't it? Combined with the religion, it's being in the astonishingly small compass of Islam, as with all the Abrahamic religions. The Judea region is really important. So you've got what have you got? Chechnya. That's a disputed region between sort of Islam and Russia. And that's nowhere near as high on the agenda, is it, in international politics?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Exactly, yeah.
Like being a Muslim myself, when I was Muslim, like that's all that was drilled into my brain: Palestine, Palestine, Palestine. Because
really,
yeah, because like they think that it's part of the Muslim Ummah, and the Ummah is the worldwide community of Muslims. They have this term in Islam. Prophet Muhammad, he led Abu Bakr to believe in this, and that Abu Bakr, he made the Ummah mean the whole world of Muslims. He was the one that invented it. And so every Friday sermon, if you go to one of these radical mosques or something like that, you will hear that, yeah, may Allah curse the Jews, they're occupying Palestine, and they make every Muslim, doesn't matter, African, Chinese, brown, whatever, they make them they make them like
that's my phone.
wow. They
It's
make
still
them
reminding me. It still thinks I'm in Abu Dhabi, and it's still regularly reminding me I need to go and pray.
they make them like think about Palestine constantly because they think it's a religious deal. They don't look at it as a country deal. It's crazy.
It is crazy, but does anybody know why? What it is based on?
It's like based on because of the Masjid al-Aqsa, we have to protect the
Yeah, but
holy
that's Jerusalem.
sites. Yeah, and like all just the historical context, they think it's part of Muhammad's land or whatever. And if you argue with them about that, and they get argued about it all the time, they don't listen.
Yeah, but the
They don't
mosque
wanna
did not
listen.
exist during Muhammad's time.
They just don't listen. They think they own that area, and it's religiously motivated. They think they have to protect the Muslims in that area, and even Muslims are suffering elsewhere like 10 times more. But for some reason, they just drill on this point about Palestine.
I think it's to do with the end time theory, right? Like how they prophesize the Jews will be fighting us. So it's people like end time theories and stuff.
Yeah, like Syria is
Maybe,
also
yeah.
a big part too. Syria is mentioned a lot during the end times Hadith. So
Yeah.
that's why there's a lot of fanaticism over Syria and Sham and whatever.
Although there's wars always going on in the Islamic world.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's more to do. I think it's to do with how it's prophesized. They hate the Jews.
Yeah, but hang on, are
Yeah.
there prophecies about Palestine?
No. Like the Jews, they'll be fighting them behind the trees.
And the stones, yeah.
Yeah. So it's more of like that,
Yeah. The end prophecies contribute a lot.
It's
Like
very important.
even the Turks are described in the end prophecies. So like there's probably going to be always going to be a lot of animosity between Muslim Arabs and Turks.
So they see this as more of a sign from their God, more as divine. I don't know. I think it could be like that. Something they can agree on.
It's slowly starting to fall into play. So what you are saying is that as soon as Palestine is in the borders of today's Israel, then we are getting one step closer to the end times and a close step closer to paradise.
That you could say that, but I was saying it's more to do with fighting the Jews there, and the Muslims are there, and then there's this war going on.
You make it sound like.
And everyone can agree on this because it's in their in the Qur'an, right? It's in there,
And when you
and
have
everyone
this,
can agree with it.
and when you have this concept of a Dajjal, this one-eyed monster or whatever, or this imposter god, yeah, like you have so many Muslims making false accusations on the Israeli Jews or whatever. Oh, this is the Dajjal.
This is say that about the Ahmadiyya.
Yeah, or they'll say it about anybody, and that's what drives fanaticism as well.
Actually, I got called. Actually, we got called the Dajjal as well on the it is Reddit page. I'm not kidding.
Oh shit, this is hilarious.
I asked them why. They just said, "Oh, you're deceiving people," and they said there's different types, and I was like, "Oh, I think they refer us to the." Wait, there's only one Dajjal. I don't know why.
But do you ask people what are the attributes of a Dajjal? The way
Yeah. I know the answers, and I asked them, and they still tell us that we are the one. I thought that they meant, one of the 30 that will come, or the 39, whatever the number is. Yeah, it's a person. It's a actual physical person. I don't know why we're claimed as, and they call the Illuminati the Dajjal as well. So.
Yes, I've heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the crazy ones.
They have a major theological difference among schools. Like one of them says that Dajjal is alive and he's waiting in this cave right now as we speak, and there's the other one says no, he won't come until the end time. So it's like they don't even have clarity on what this Dajjal is.
Yeah, the same with the Gog and Magog. I mean, you also hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do we do? I'm back. It's always when I hear all this, I think to myself, come on, this can't be true. And then I think, well, no, it can't, but it is. It is reality. We have people on this planet today that have nothing better to do than kill anybody else who doesn't believe what they believe, and they want to be the bestest of the best and the ones who are calling the shots. Now, they can't do anything. They are useless when it comes to science. They're useless in everything else. 50% can't even read or write or anything. How is that possible? How can we have people with so little have so much influence? It's mind-boggling.
I think because Westerners are way too nice. Honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's did you guys read the no. I think who was it? Richard Dawkins' book? I don't know. He talks about this. Richard Dawkins?
I think there's 9.
He says something like the idea of that's more fierce. If an idea has something in it about killing and other people's ideas, that one will likely to survive. So it's more of, I'd say it's more of they're good at holding to their ideas and spreading them. That's how they got this.
I'm saying that the idea that the US have that bombs solve everything is because you cannot bomb ideas.
I was thinking of the wrong thing then. Yeah. My bad. I thought you guys were talking about. No, don't worry.
I think it's misinformation as well. Well, not misinformation, just not being educated on the topic and then wanting to make a comment on it. So I think it's people that don't know anything about Islam and then just have Muslims as a friend, like Islam must be peaceful because my friend's a good guy.
Yeah, this is always an argument that sends me up the wall when they say, well, if Islam is so violent, how come we're still alive and how come you don't have 1.5 billion terrorists on your house? It's amazing. It's absolutely mind-boggling how people can be so ridiculously stupid. It's like total unthinking. I have a woman who's criticizing me at the moment that I am criticizing somebody who's spreading lies. And I don't understand that. Why would a Muslim defend a Muslim who's lying? I mean, how can somebody say, well, the alcohol is the biggest killer in the world? Now, I demonstrated that it is not. So, and then she says, yes, it is. And I said, well, then prove it to me, because I can prove that it is not. And now
But yeah,
somebody
it's
else
like,
is coming in and saying, well, why are you going, this is such a pious woman, she is so good, why are you criticizing her? I said, because she's a liar.
Ah, yeah. They don't question the ones that who are pious or they're scholars or they're the people who are regarded as high. You don't question them when you're one of the believers.
Why?
You just don't. You don't have that thinking.
Is this the obey
I can't explain
that
it to
you
you.
see?
Yeah, it's more of installed in them. Like if you're one of us, you should believe like this. You should be like this. You wouldn't question us. That you don't. They don't say, but in this, you just get this kind of way of thinking. You don't really question them.
It's quite shocking to some people because I made this imam family of channels where I have, the father, the son, the mother, the daughter, and so on. And when I comment as imam brother, a lot of people are really shocked. It's exactly what you are saying. If I say, yeah, but hang on, why are you lying? This is not true. And then they say, brother, how can you criticize this guy? He's a brother. And I say, well, he's lying. So why shouldn't I? That's exactly this. Yeah.
You know what? You have a picture of Anwar al-Awlaki, and he is like a radical extremist, and Muslims like really take that guy seriously, and they probably see your picture that you promote him, so they're just like, brother, how could you?
But that's not even a picture of him. It looks like him, I know that.
Oh, it's not. I didn't even know. I thought it was him.
I know, a lot of people think that. And I say, no, come on. I mean, you're talking about a dead guy who died in Yemen, I don't know how many years ago. No, I don't have a photo of him on my hard drive.
Oh, so that's just some random Muslim guy?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It looks like him.
Well, I mean, come on, he's wearing a white robe and has a beard. Yes, it looks like him.
I mean, I was confused as well the first time I read your comment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought you're trolling us. Yeah. And I went on your videos, I was like, oh, okay. I was confused. That's why I asked you. I was like, how comes you're making these and then your name is this?
Okay.
Yeah, I was very confused.
You know where I'm getting the strongest reactions? On my imam's sister. I don't know, people are so confused.
I wonder why.
I mean, all you have to do is just click on my avatar, and the first thing I tell you is, I'm not a Muslim. But people don't even click on my avatar.
See, that's the thing. They're not skeptical. They're not good at being skeptical.
Yeah, and there's cheers, Alasa. Have a good one. I have some things here. Hang on, let me just share this, because I found this interesting, because there's some good news. Screen share this one. Start screen share and present to everyone. All right. Can you see this now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is about Oman builds an industrial outpost in desert to escape oil trap. So what is happening is, because the oil price is going down, Oman is now looking to extend its income possibilities, and they are now doing what Bangladesh is doing, and that is revamping freighters, ships, whatever. And they've built a huge dry dock now with millions and billions, while they still have the money, to see if they can go and find other ways and means of income getting away from the oil. Now, what is happening is, for example, oil. In Kuwaiti oil workers strike. There's a strike in Kuwaiti oil workers, okay? Now, the rest of the world is only waiting to increase the price of oil, because then the banks can make a lot of money. And this is why I'm saying there's a failure in capitalism, because we're not realistic. Everybody is just trying to make a quick buck, and they're saying that oil prices, as soon as they rise, everybody's going to make a quick buck, and this is so terrible. But this is the way that we work nowadays. It's just oil. And then we have something like this, where in Dubai and in Saudi Arabia, they're now competing to build the highest tower. Like now you have the Kingdom Tower, which is going to be over 1 kilometer high, and they want to build something similar in Dubai. Because, I mean, the Khalifa Tower was a disaster, which was almost never built because they ran out of money. And now they want to build an even higher one, which is over 1 kilometer, which I think is stupid. And this is what the people are now sort of, I don't know, getting busy with just trying to spend money. And this is now the effect that this has on, for example, the relationship between the US and Saudi Arabia. Because Saudi Arabia is so jealous, they can't handle the loosening or the tightening or whatever you want to call it, loosening of sanctions, tightening of relationships with Iran, because for some odd reason Saudi Arabia sees itself in competition with Iran. I don't quite understand that. One is Sunni, one is Shia. Why there should be a competition there? They should be on different ends of the I don't know of the scale. So I don't know why they do that. And then of course Saudi is now causing all sorts of shit with the people because they need more money because they're not getting enough income from the oil. So they're starting to charge people for all sorts of things. And then you have Obama in Kuwait and Riyadh and da-da-da-da. Okay, but this is not what I wanted. Oh, this is quite interesting. Islamic morality police. I don't know if people know this. In Iran, women have always been anti... oops, what happened now? Anti... the chador. They've been wanting to show more hair and faces and things like that. But you still get more and more Islamic religion police out. And now they're comparing the religion police in Iran to the religion police in different areas. So they're saying, okay, this is the religion police in Saudi Arabia, this is the religion police in Iran, this is in Sudan, and this is in Malaysia. And they're comparing the different religious police forces in different areas on this planet, which I find quite hilarious. Now, this is what I actually wanted. This, I think, is brilliant, and I think this is the best news that anyone in Islam has ever come up with in the last 10 years. Because this guy is filthy rich, and he donated 1 billion euros or 1 something billion dollars and blah, blah, blah. And he is sponsoring people. Now, why I'm saying this, because you said a word which he uses, which is skeptic. Because he is saying, I am going to sponsor bright people who are capable of being educated and who are then going to contribute to the region. Now, there is one thing here which he says, how is he going to decide on who is going to go there? And one thing is that he wants to provide education to people who are skeptics, who are quick on their feet, who can think, who are really creative. So we are looking to have young people who are well-rounded, who can think critically, who are creative. We're hoping to help them enter the top universities, both in the region and globally, so that they can be competitive and be able to compete on a global level for the jobs in the future. Now, this is brilliant. I don't know if you can actually read this on the screen. The problem is, you said one word, and that is skeptic. Because I think you cannot be a skeptic and a Muslim. Am I wrong? Am I right? Or is this anywhere near it? Is this really as dangerous as I think it's going to be?
Yeah, I think the Saudi Arabia royal family is probably disproportionately atheist because of the education they have. I don't know. Maybe he's a closet skeptic or non-religious or something like that. What do you guys think?
Sir, dangerous for who? Did you guys say it's dangerous?
Well, it might be. He might. The Saudi Arabia government might stop it.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of that. Yeah.
Because of one word.
This is not Saudi.
Oh, where is this?
UAE.
Oh, all right.
Oh, UAE. Yes.
Oh. mean, they don't, in the word of, I think in Arabia, in their own language, skeptic doesn't really mean the skeptic, probably what we mean. You know, like the one that's questioning everything. Or like, you know, being critical of different
okay,
views
so
and
you think there's
opinions.
a different definition behind
Definitely,
this?
definitely. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but definitely. In my language, there is. It's different to what we say in English. So you think rationally about people, but not your own religion. So I doubt he's thinking about, he's thinking about just being critical about, you know, education. In education, I don't know how to say it. Fast thinkers. Someone who can learn really fast. But yeah, I would say the definition is slightly different compared to what we think skepticism is. If you
Okay,
know what I mean.
that could be possible. It's just that the word triggered exactly this because but do you agree then that you can't be a skeptic the way that we understand skeptic and a Muslim at the same time?
It's hard to be a practicing one because it goes against the teachings, I would say. Yeah, you can't be skeptical of what the Prophet said or what the God says, right?
Naeem Rushdie said it. Maybe it's just a trap, and they want to find out who's an atheist and behead them.
Oh, damn.
I mean, there are some in the Arab world, that even in Saudi Arabia, that admit that the Western world is beating them as far as technology and development and everything like that. So maybe he's one of those guys, but yeah, he's not gonna go far with his skepticism if he truly like believes in Islam and everything like that. And it depends on like what kind of scholars he promotes. If they're free-thinking scholars or something. Not saying that Muslim scholars are free-thinking scholars, but some are better than others.
Okay, but this guy now, he is not talking, he doesn't mention Allah or Muhammad at all.
Right, and he doesn't have a beard, which is good.
Oh, yeah. It's a good thing to point.
I reckon he's a closet.
5 o'clock shadow.
Well, he's got money, so I don't think he's interested in, you know, in a 1400-year-old cult.
Yeah.
Yeah, but mind you, a lot of people run around like this, even in Saudi. And I see, I mean, look at Sheikh Mohammed, the guy in Dubai. He also has a beard even shorter than this. So a lot of these guys don't go for this Salafi beard.
Yeah. It depends on how he's going to promote his money and everything.
He's already got the 72 virgins.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, even more, I bet.
Okay, but I think this is brilliant news, and I think this is excellent for the region because, I mean, I always look at the way that Muslims simply do not contribute for mankind. I know they always say, yeah, but we started the Renaissance and we did this. No, you did not. There is nothing that a Muslim has ever contributed that is meaningful towards mankind, except for one single Muslim living in the US in 1999. And that's it. That's a Nobel Prize. Everybody else has never managed anything similar. So what are you talking about? And it's actually quite an embarrassment for them. But
yeah, especially when they had 1400 years compared to America or the West when they had like 300, 400 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they still blame America and the West. I think there was an interview, some guy, he said America's been around for like 200 years roughly, and the Islamic world are blaming them, but then their problems have been around for like since Islam has been around.
Yeah, but then can they sort of explain to me Islamic morality police? Where does that fit in? Where does that fit in with human rights, and where does that fit in with development and modern society and things like that?
I can't really see. Oh, sorry. I can't really see the screen properly. Are they defending them, or are they...
No. This is from the BBC News, and they're saying, who are Islamic morality police? And then what they're doing is they're comparing the different regions. They're comparing Iran, they're comparing Saudi Arabia, and they're comparing Sudan, for example, to show the differences in the way that the religious police are arresting women on different ways. Because in Iran, for example, women do wear a lot less tight clothes than they do in Saudi. I mean, in Saudi, it's very tight, the rules and regulations. I mean, if you go and sit somewhere, if you're outside, you need to be covered and blah, blah, blah. Even in Doha, you have the abaya and this. But in Iran, you don't have this so much. I mean, even the chador, a lot of women, I don't know, can you see the photo of this woman here?
Yeah, yeah.
Look, why does it go dark? Oh shit, I've lost it.
Don't worry, sorry.
It's a jinn.
It must be a jinn. Yeah, but now I've lost the complete screen.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, I must have clicked on settings inadvertently. Cancel. Because what I was trying to show is a photo of this girl here.
Yeah.
No, I can't. It doesn't allow me to do that for some reason. Anyway, but you can see that the hair in front is showing. You can see that the hair at the back is showing. So there's a lot of things that you're not supposed to see according to Islam.
See, the thing is, it's that same thing, that picture you saw right there, right? It's going on in Afghanistan as well now.
Are they also going back? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, definitely. It actually has been going on for like 2 years now. And I'm wondering when they're going to come and stop policing them.
Wow.
Well, I think they were being policed anyways, but then it's just easier now for them because they got sick of religion. They really did. Now they want the Taliban back. Some of them.
That is amazing. That's totally crazy. All right. Any further topics? Anybody want to talk about anything else? Because I'm not going to stretch it out. I mean, if we're done with topics, then let's call it a day for today.
I think you know the picture you showed regarding the buildings, right?
Yes.
Just to go over, because I don't think anyone has, how they say that's a prophecy, how it's been built and built bigger and bigger, right?
Oh, there's this prophecy that the people with the big feet are going to build the high towers,
Yeah, the thing is, if you look into it, it's the Arabs, the Muslims themselves who are building it, so it's not really, it's been self-prophesized by themselves, so it doesn't really count. Yeah.
True.
I think someone has to, I
was going to say, the dangerous thing about these prophecies is that it's anti-modernity. Like anything modern or breaking out of the shell, innovation, it's really like a sign of the end times, which is crazy.
This is true. This is very true, yeah. Well, I mean, like we had in the biggest example is always like if you're taking these artificial islands, and it doesn't matter whether you're talking about the Palm in Dubai or the Pearl in Doha. You have different laws there because they are human-made. They're not made by Allah, and this is why you're, for example, allowed to drink alcohol on those islands, because you have human laws there and not Allah's law. So there you go.
Like there's this other hadith that just came to my head. Like one of the signs of the end times is Muslim women wearing their hijabs in like camel humps, meaning like they kind of modernize their hijab style. So it's like they're not allowed to do that. Not, even on the women folk, they have strict laws,
Okay, then should we go for the hadith of the day, which today actually shows how egotistical Islam is, because it's only about me, 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 me.
Let's go.
No, I cannot click on anything in this window. Yes, I can.
Muslim Book 194294. When the Messenger of Allah appointed one as leader of an army or detachment, he would especially exhort him. He would say, fight in the name of Allah and in the way of Allah. Fight those who disbelieve in Allah. Make a holy war. When you meet your enemies who are polytheists, invite them to three-course action. If they respond to any one of these, you also accept it and withhold yourself from
The sound cut off.
Yeah, but I think I just realized that it's the wrong one. This is from the
Okay.
Abu Dawood Collection, Book 1, number 62. Abu Hutaif al-Hudali reported, I was in the company of Ibn Umar. When the call was made for the noon, the Zuhr prayer, he performed ablution and said the prayer. When the call for the afternoon, the Asr prayer, was made, he again performed ablution. Thus I asked him about the reason of performing ablution, and he replied, the Apostle of Allah said, for a man who performs ablution in a state of purity, 10 virtuous deeds will be recorded in his favor.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Brother did a good thing.
That's the thing with Islam. It's like the good deeds is just selfish acts, you know. Like, oh, I made ablution.
Exactly.
I said I recited this surah 10 times. I get the good deeds. So when they speak about good deeds in Islam, it's really like meaningless things to the rest of the world.
Exactly. This was the whole point of this thing.
I think good deeds in religion are inherently narcissistic, aren't they? Because they're based off self-reward.
Exactly. Yeah. It's funny that everybody sees this except Muslims. All right, guys. Thank you very much. It's been fun as always. I was actually hoping for more responses with this OIC thing, but maybe it's so huge that there's very little that we can actually do. But we'll see if this pans out a bit more and what will happen over time. Otherwise, we'll just have to wait.
The thing to do is for countries to stop paying so much attention to the UN, because it's just it's a bit of a joke these days, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't do anything. Exactly. You're right. It's a
what it does do is propose a load of aggressive crap, because it just lets everyone have their input, including the more aggressive countries.
Yeah, it's quite weird. You'd think that everybody has a say in this, but it looks like it don't. It's the bullies who get away with it.
Yeah, the squeaky wheels get
Yeah. I do like the UN though, in the way that it can be used as an international attempt to stop some sort of genocide.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
I mean,
Yeah, it
yeah,
doesn't.
but it did in what,
In
the
Burundi.
Hutsi and Tutsi. Remember that genocide on the Hutsi or something like? I can't remember.
In Burundi.
No, like, yeah, it did. They did intervene then.
It was a bit late though, wasn't it? I mean, millions of people
Exactly.
died in that.
Yeah, but I mean, I do believe in such an international thing. Just that I think they should enforce, the West should try and enforce their values a bit more, instead of just being like, oh, you have oil, oh, it's all right.
Yeah, but that's what the UN can't do, because the UN doesn't really try to be biased in favour of any country. So because it has to be equal to all the countries, it has to be equal to all the barbaric countries, all the dictatorships as well. So it's just a bit of a joke.
Yeah, but there are some. So if you have a like, what America have is the European nations go with them, and they have more vetoing power per se. So what I think the European nations should do is not be on the side of Saudi Arabia just because to get oil, be oil whores or some shit.
You've got the OIC though as another block, haven't you? It needs to start. It needs to stop pretending that all cultures are equal and start saying, no, we're going to favour sophisticated democratic cultures. We're going to give them more of a voice. Of course, that means the more barbaric cultures won't care about it, but who cares really? I mean, it's better than having a UN that has Saudi Arabia on a Human Rights Council.
All right, guys, but this is not something that we're going to want to solve or do or whatever. So I think we should call it a day for today. And we shall see each other next week, Sunday.
I'll just make the point, though, that you're talking about what can we do about the OIC when it's actually really a problem with the UN, it's really the UN you've got a problem with. The fact that the OIC can carry that power is because of the structure of the UN giving everyone an equal voice.
This is correct. Yes, I agree with you. Yeah. Okay. Any closing words, or should we call it a day and say, okay, let's meet next week?
Well, let's end on a song. Islam is spreading out peace.
Thank you.
If you don't agree, I'll chop your head.
Bye, guys. See you next week on Sunday. Bye.
All right, see ya.